Hello, everybody. It is a delight to be here with you today, to be in this beautiful space with this beautiful crowd and these terrific panelists. I'm Madeleine Dean. I'm Congresswoman for the 4th Congressional District, Montgomery and Berks counties. I have the privilege of representing this area, and I want to thank the pastor for welcoming us to this hunger roundtable right here in Salem Baptist Church. So thank you, Pastor. Pastor, I'm going to think back on when you were installed as a pastor. It's almost 10 years ago, if I'm correct.
10 years this week.
10 years this week. How about that? And one of your friends who was helping with the installation asked a rhetorical question that I know he knew the answer to. He asked, "Will our tomorrows be better than our todays for your service?" And the answer, of course, has been 10 years of better tomorrows. Thank you for your service. And congratulations, 10 years. That's great. And this is an area that Pastor and everybody in this space cares an awful lot about: hunger, food insufficiency. I'm a teacher of writing, so I too often use hunger because you can hear and feel hunger. And so I know it's appropriate also to say food insufficiency, so forgive me as I flip back and forth with that. September was Hunger Action Month, and today is the opportunity to lift up the actions at the local level, at the county level, at the state level, at the federal level, at the nonprofit level, at the faith level, around the issue of reducing and, I hope, one day eliminating hunger. We saw President Biden's recent announcements, and we will learn from one another what is going on, but what more needs to be done. So I'm excited to start this conversation, but before I give any prepared remarks, I thought first we'd go around and allow everyone to introduce him and herself. Pastor?
Marshall Mitchell, pastor of Salem Baptist Church.
Marilee Mccollum, Coffee, G. Mercy, you.
I'm Betsy Stone Plummer. I'm the Director of Service and of Catherine's Covered at Whitman Mercy University.
Good afternoon. I'm Susan Niger-Gould, Executive Director at Man on Main Street.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Amanda Musselman, and I'm the Executive Director at Montco Anti-Hunger Network.
Hello, my name is Tiffany Jones. I'm Director of Program Services at Family Promise Montco, PA, formerly known as Interfaith Housing Alliance.
That's great. I'll leave that over there. Here we go. You may go.
Ken Lawrence.
Needs no introduction.
Ken Lawrence, Montgomery County Commissioner.
Lori Jones, Chief Executive Officer of Phil Abundance.
Good afternoon. Valar Kosh, Montgomery County Commissioner.
Well, terrific. I'll start with just some brief remarks, and then much more importantly, we'll have a conversation and hear from the folks who are here and are so expert and advocates in this area. I wanted to start with just hunger in Pennsylvania. And think about it. We are an agriculture-rich state, and so it's always paradoxical to me that we struggle making sure that everyone, every senior, every family, every child has enough food. In 2020, as a result of the pandemic, the number of Pennsylvanians facing hunger grew from 1.35 million to more than 1.7 million. That's according to Feeding America. Feeding America projects that in 2021, as a result of the government policies to strengthen nutrition assistance programs and to help with the help of the private sector, those rates are likely to improve. But we know that inflation makes turning that trend around even more difficult. The White House conference was just taking place. It was a conference on hunger, nutrition, and health. So to ensure that we continue to move in the right direction. Last week, and for the first time in more than 50 years, the White House hosted a conference on hunger, nutrition, and health. It's the first time since 1969, under President Nixon, that such a conference was held at the White House. Seems like it's long overdue, and I'm proud of the administration. What they also did was to announce more than $8 billion in commitments from both private and public sectors to end hunger and reduce diet-related diseases by 2030, a very worthy set of goals. Some of the things that are in that action, I'll just briefly talk about, and I think others will highlight even better. Improving food access and affordability by expanding SNAP eligibility and access to free school meals. Integrating nutrition into health, a much greater focus on the nutritional components of the meals that we want to make sure families are enjoying. Empowering people to make and have access to healthy choices, like expanding incentives in the SNAP program for fruits and vegetables. Supporting physical activity for all, and enhancing nutrition and food security research. I want to shift now to the federal responsibility, and I think you're going to see that from this conversation and from the work you are all doing, it's on all of us. It's going to take work at every single level, both governmental at every level, but in our communities, in our private sector, in our faith communities, and in our nonprofits. We know that federal action makes a real tangible difference in people's lives. I was really proud to be a part of the expanded and enhanced child tax credit, which was a part of the American Rescue Plan. We know that as a result of that short-term enhanced and stable set of resources going to families, we lifted 40% of children out of poverty and hunger. Think of that. We, in the past, had talked about if we could make a 5% increase, a 10% improvement, 40%. But you might imagine that I'm concerned because we were not able to continue the enhanced child tax credit. In my district alone, it's estimated that 116,000 children qualified for this extended and enhanced CTC in 2021. Unfortunately, Republicans blocked the continuation of that credit. I think it's a fatal policy mistake on their part, and I hope we will change that in the future. We have other things that we've done. We've increased summer lunch programs. As I said, we have a robust agricultural industry, and we must connect the food that we grow right here, we raise right here, to the communities in need, particularly communities in Philadelphia and the surrounding region, in Pottstown and in those regions. I used to be a state representative, so I paid close attention to how our state budget dealt with hunger and nutrition, and we have line items specifically within the state budget that state representatives can highlight for us more. One of the line items that is important is the Eligibility for State Food Purchase Program. That's a USDA program administered at the state level, and we've increased eligibility, or the state, I should say, has increased eligibility in those areas. We're joined here by our county partners. I'm really proud of the extraordinary work that the county, Montgomery County, has done with Commissioners Arkush and Lawrence as a result, in part, from the ARPA monies, dedicating $8.4 million for hunger efforts, and I'll let them go through those in greater detail. I guess I'll end on this. Pastor Mitchell, it's always great to work with you. Your work is guided by faith and a love of humanity. This issue is entirely about that love of humanity. So I thank all of you, the powerful leaders in this space, for the work you are doing to make sure that we work together to end hunger. As I said, we're an agriculture-rich state. There is no reason for waste and children and seniors particularly going hungry. So it is my privilege now to pass it back to you, Pastor.
Great. Thank you very much, Congresswoman, and certainly welcome to everyone here. And we have found a new lease on life relative to meeting the needs of people. When COVID hit, we couldn't worship publicly. And so this large space that we're in right now went silent. Normally there would be 1,000 people here on Sundays. During a period of COVID, there would be 3 or 4 of us with an iPhone, everybody live streaming everything. And so we're here today in part because of the miracles of what have sprouted out of this period of COVID. And so we're able to accommodate this large crowd online, and people are able to tune in wherever they are in the world to learn these sorts of things. But I saw something happen inside of our congregation. And inside of our congregation, we saw people not able to come into church, but certainly able to drop food off so that our partners in Family Promise could continue to do what they were doing, and people in our congregation who were interested in what was happening at Temple Ambler and Arcadia and Lincoln and Cheney. We were able to really meet those needs, and I think that caused a transformation in what being and doing church has meant. And with partners like Phil Abundance as well as the county, we've been able to really do a lot to catalyze and to come out of COVID. We certainly hope we're coming out of COVID with a new lease on life, and we're simply doing what our religion and our faith guides us to do, which is feed my sheep. And so it's really keeping in line, but I have seen a resurgence of volunteerism and service that have emerged out of this church around this one issue, which is hunger. And it gets really right back to the floorboards of our faith. And so certainly everyone is welcome here, and we couldn't be more elated to have a partnership with Family Promise and Phil Abundance. Without them, we could not do what we do, and we think we're also integral to what they do. So out of COVID, people have learned to do much more hand-in-glove partnerships, and I think that portends a great future.
Fantastic. Thank you for that partnership. And using COVID to expand. We all thought about COVID as contracting, but you used it actually to expand.
Well, absolutely. The food cupboard that you just toured, I don't know that outside of COVID, I don't know that that would have happened. The need existed. We started talking to Lori at Phil Abundance and Marcia at Family Promise, and everything was aligned. We had the space, we had the woman power and the manpower, the need existed, and the investment capital was there. And I think looking at those kinds of opportunities rather than normally the siloed, this is where we are, what do you do? But the integrated model proved much more effective.
Terrific. Now I want to pass it to our county commissioners, Ken Lawrence and Val Arkush.
Okay, thank you, Congresswoman. First of all, it's always good to be at Salem, and thank you for opening your doors as you always open your doors. And I don't feel qualified to be up here. I look in the audience, some of the panelists up here, you all are true heroes. You've taught me a lot about this issue, and I just want to publicly thank you. I can't start naming names, but you know, people forget when we were staying home, the food cupboard stayed open. They absolutely stayed open, and we did what we could to get masks and hand fluids, and we don't even want to talk about those days, but you all stayed open, and you need it to be open because people need it to eat. You know, it's 365 days a year. This is an issue that Val and I have been committed to. Val's going to talk about some of the things that we've done, but I'm going to share a personal experience that I had very early on as a commissioner. Some of you have heard this before, but I think it's always important to share, where our Health and Human Services Department asked me to participate in the Food Stamp Challenge, which was to live on $4.75 a day. And I said I was going to do it for 2 weeks, and I figured it would be easy, right? The first thing I learned was that you can't eat well on $4.75 a day. You can't, like an apple was just too much, right, to get. So I had a lot of ramen noodles, which did well for me in college, but I'm not in college anymore. They didn't do so well. And the second or third night I woke up and I thought I was having an appendicitis, or I thought I was having a heart attack. I just had this sharp pain. Got my wife, and then I realized that I was hungry. For the first time in my life, I was truly hungry. And when you're hungry, that's really all you think about. Wasn't thinking about work. And my $4.75 a day didn't include my gas, it didn't include my mortgage, it didn't include my heat, none of that. My family was not doing this challenge with me. It was just me on $4.75 a day. About halfway through the challenge, I came home. We had been out, and my dog had eaten my half a loaf of bread that I had left for the rest of the week. And I flipped out and said things that I can't say here in church, Pastor. My boys were upset. I said, the dog's got to go. We're going to. And after about 2 minutes of completely losing my mind, my wife, who always settles me, says, you can get another loaf of bread, right? I could go get another loaf of bread. But I thought of those families out there that if they lost that loaf of bread, that was it. I learned then that we had over 100,000 people in Montgomery County who are food insecure, which means they make too much for assistance, but they're not making enough to go. And that's when I really started to learn about the cupboards and all the work that you all do to do that. It's something that we don't talk about. It's something that's invisible here in this community to a degree. We need to talk about it. So I just want to thank all of you for the work that you do each and every day to uplift and feed. We're committed to that with the partnership with our Congresswoman, and now Val's going to talk a little bit about what we've been doing from the county side on this.
Thanks, Ken. Thank you, Pastor Mitchell. It's always such a joy to be here. I love this space. Doesn't everyone just feel so good when you walk in here and sit down? It is just such a wonderful community space, and I'm always so grateful to have time to be here with you and with this community. So, as Ken mentioned, this is something that we have been hard at long before COVID. Many of you know I'm a physician by training, and one of the many things that got me into public service was realizing that more than my patients needed me and my skills as a physician, they needed a grocery store in their neighborhood that sold healthy food. You simply cannot be healthy if you have no ability to either physically acquire or pay for healthy food. And when COVID hit, while we knew that we at baseline had around 100,000 people in the county that were food insecure, COVID increased those numbers dramatically. And I'm not sure we'll ever really know what the numbers are, but we had so many people who needed food and had no idea how to get it because it had never crossed their mind that they would be in a position to need food. And so I do think that we are in a moment of opportunity here where being food insecure is suddenly not something that happens to them, to someone else. It's happened to so many of our friends and neighbors during these last couple of years. And so I hope that we can take this tragedy of COVID and find a way to move forward together in this work. When COVID hit, and this is a moment where I just in deep sincerity thank Congresswoman Dean and many others in our federal delegation who supported CARES Act funding, and then as you'll hear after that, the ARPA funding. But we had dollars that we could put toward this work, and we donated $2 million of county CARES money to our food pantries. They used that to buy food. Many pantries didn't have a computer, so many got all the tech things they needed. They bought PPE and hand sanitizer. I mean, these things were critical at the time. And then we also always try to direct our spending in ways that build for the future. And so we invested an additional $1 million in a program that's a partnership between the YWCA from the Tri-County area in the western part of the county and the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society. And it is both growing food, teaching people how to grow food, and then cooking that food and teaching people how to cook that food. And so that project is up and running and doing really, really well, and hopefully will continue on for many more years. And so now we're in a new phase of this recovery. And again, thanks to Congresswoman Dean and the Biden administration and many others, we've had available to us this funding through the American Recovery Plan Act. And we are working to distribute those funds when it comes to food around three main areas: food distribution, food production, again, always planning for the future, and then food policy and coordination. And so one of the main things we're doing around food distribution is to purchase a warehouse in the county. The county has never had a warehouse that supports our food network. And occasionally, not infrequently, there are opportunities to accept large donations of food, but we never had anywhere to put it. So we would have to say no to those donations. And so the hope is that this will be a much more coordinated distribution network. We're also working with groups that are focused on food production, and I'll just highlight three of them. One is the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society's farm that is in the Norristown Farm Park. Another is Trellis for Tomorrow in Pottstown. And the third is Martha's Community Farm, also in Norristown. And that's a program to produce food for a choice pantry that is done with Catholic Social Services. So again, making sure that the food is there, as the Congresswoman mentioned, to connect food grown here with the folks that live here. And then we're working to bring groups together to figure out how to optimize and best coordinate the work being done in the county. We'll never have enough resources, and so it's on all of us working together to make sure that we're making the best use of every single dollar that we do have to make sure that nobody in our county wakes up in the middle of the night with a strong pain in their stomach because they haven't had enough to eat.
Well, I thank both of the commissioners. Ken, thank you for telling that story. And it does remind us of maybe something we take for granted, that we don't struggle. Many of us don't struggle with making sure we have enough food, especially enough food for our children, so they don't wake up with that pain in their stomach. I have to tell you, down in D.C., we were so determined to get dollars out to states and to counties, and you have been such responsible stewards of those dollars. It's something I hope is duplicated throughout this Commonwealth, but may not have been. Thank you for making sure that the CARES money got out to communities, especially in the area of hunger and food insufficiency, and also the ARPA funds. So it's transformational in a time of terrible distress, both public health distress and economic distress. Something very good can come from it. So thank you both for being those stewards. Next, we're going to hear from Tiffany Jones, Family Promise, to tell us about the families they serve, the pantry, and the impact of rising housing costs and its connection to hunger. Tiffany?
Good afternoon. My name is Tiffany Jones, and I'm the Director of Program Services at Family Promise Montco, PA. And when we first talked about having this roundtable, I was very excited that I would get a chance to speak to everybody about my experiences working at Family Promise. Working at Family Promise in the housing department and also working more recently at Family Promise Food Pantry. But as time presented itself and went on, I kept saying, what am I gonna say? What am I gonna say? What am I gonna say? Right? So oftentimes people in my position don't get a chance to say anything in front of people. We're the people who meet with the clients. We're the people who meet with the customers. We get to hear the stories. We get to see the advances. We get to see the setbacks, but we don't always get to speak. So as I prepared for this, a few words came to mind, and the words were accessibility, availability, and affordability. Words that we at Family Promise, and I'm sure a lot of our community partners, know very well. In relation to availability, at the Family Promise Food Pantry, as I stated during the tour, we really are working very hard with our community to make healthier food an option. So often, we go into the supermarket and we can just get a bag of lettuce. We can just get a banana, we can get fruit. But our food pantry is really pushing that initiative along with Philabundance and working to make our pantry much healthier so that our families live healthier lives. All right, we all know how important healthy living is. So for us to be able to have healthier choices available is transformational. I think we will all agree that it makes a big difference. We've even laughed and joked in the food pantry about some of the fruits and vegetables that come in that we didn't even know what they were. You know, we're looking them up. Pat, you know, and the volunteers just being so excited though, so excited that we're able to offer these, that we're all able to offer all kinds of different fruits and vegetables, that we have local organizations that come and bring us these really healthy options for our families, and to be able to see their faces light up when they get these healthier options and they know that we are on their side, that we're helping them in this fight to make better choices for their families and to make the food available and accessible for them. The other word, like I said, is affordability. So we all know during the summer when inflation was at a very high rate And so many of us were saying, oh my God, gas is $5, right? Imagine being a family that you're already on a tight budget. That $1, $2, $3 makes a world of difference. Families come to us and say, you know what? I have to make a choice between food and medication. Nobody wants to see that. But it has happened, and we work really hard with our partners to make sure that we are taking care of our families, that we're getting them the healthy food, that we're making it accessible, that we're open Monday evenings, Wednesday, Thursdays, Saturdays, so that they can come. Because we also have a lot of families who are working families. And so we want to make sure that we're supporting them in every way that we can. And so when we were talking about inflation, or when we were looking at inflation, everything went up. I remember sometimes coming into the pantry and saying, oh my goodness, what is this gonna look like today? But also operating from a mindset of abundance and asking our community partners, putting out flyers, asking everybody, we need meat, we need this, we need that. And what I will say is Montgomery County has really rallied around us and has supported us. Whenever we ask for something, it comes. And so we are so happy to serve the community and to help combat hunger and to help people find affordable housing with our community partners and everybody who supports us. At Family Promise, our mission is we partner with the community to address hunger and homelessness one family at a time. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Tiffany, for your voice and your words and your focus on families. Layered into all of this, we're talking a lot about COVID and the global economic closure, but of course we all know that this county was hit mighty hard by Ida, Hurricane Ida, August of last year. So that absolutely increased our problems around nutrition, around housing, and so thanks to all these partners for their extra work during those times as well. Next, we're going to hear from Laurie Jones of Philabundance to learn more about food inflation, supply chain issues, and how it has become more difficult to serve those whom we need to serve. I think, Laurie, you did attend the White House conference, so look forward to hearing from Laurie.
That's right. Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Congresswoman, for your leadership, for gathering us today to talk about such an important issue. To the county commissioners, thank you for your support and leadership and support of our partners. We have dozens of partners. Many of them are up here. So thank you for all that you're doing to invest in their work, and especially to our spiritual leader and friend, who, in addition to leading this congregation, really is driving so much impact and community change. And really, it's an honor to get to work with you and make an impact. Sorry I had to talk after Tiffany. You were incredible. And you really hit all the things home. I'm going to give one example that's local about money, because it's right here. I go to the produce junction down the street here. I was making peach cobbler for my colleagues at work. They like my peach cobbler. So July, I went to Produce Junction. I bought a case of peaches, $15. It's good, right? A few weeks later, they wanted more. They liked my peach cobbler. It was $30.50. Weeks later. So that was my individual experience. And so to your point, what is happening to the people that we serve? For our level, last year this time, we were purchasing chicken. A truckload of chicken cost us $55,000. I started with the peaches so you could really understand. $55,000 to purchase a truckload of chicken to get out to Marsh and everybody this year, $120,000. So what our families are seeing, what we're seeing, it's very real, and it has a strong impact, and so that's why we do need the additional supports that are coming through. Inflation is hitting folks. So grateful that we have partners that are really meeting the needs in a caring way, and appreciate the work that you're doing. And we're here, we're redoubling our fundraising efforts, doing all we can to really keep up with the need. You referenced the need. We saw at the beginning of COVID, 40% of the people who came in were newly food insecure. So we've got a brand new crop of folks that are coming and needing this help. But I really wanted to talk with you, since you all are mostly on the ground and can talk about what you're seeing even in more detail than I can. I do want to talk to you about the White House conference, because despite the fact that it's a dreary day, and despite the fact that we are seeing more numbers and we're seeing this increase in inflation, I really am encouraged. You know, I was at this White House conference on hunger, nutrition, and health with 500 other people from around the country, 10% of whom, nearly 50 of whom, had lived experience. Brought to that conference, I think, not just myself and Phil Abundance and all of you and our partners, but brought somebody with lived expertise who runs an agency right in our area, but also the voices of the dozens of people that my colleague Kathy had engaged with over the course of the summer to get their input. So this White House plan, and this is not at all a partisan conversation, this White House plan absolutely has the voices, perspectives of people with lived expertise from across the country. And what they talked about wanting is dignity. And that's what you're talking about. They want to make sure that they got a chance to feed their families, to make choices, to have that choice pantry, to make healthy choices for their families. And that's all throughout this plan. They understood that it wasn't about just one issue. It wasn't just hunger. It was poverty, it was housing, it was a number of other things. It was transit, public transit. And so you'll see in this plan a push for us to really think about our housing work, connecting it with our work in pantries, and making sure that that's affordable. Public transit, I know that's something that we're working on in this region as well. Making sure that we have transportation for folks to get to those foods, to the grocery stores, but also to their jobs. And so I am really encouraged that the federal government right now is saying we're going to marshal $8 billion of resources from multiple agencies to really address this issue. For us, we talk about not just driving hunger from communities today and ensuring that each and every day people don't have those hunger pangs, but we're really talking about how we invest in the future, how we do invest in addressing the root causes. And I think that with this White House plan, we absolutely are poised to do that. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Lori. So well said. And you're right, this isn't a political issue, but it is important that this administration has chosen this focus of its time, but also, of course, of its resources and the resources that we pass. I remember going to food pantries after some of this money was coming out in the area. And the very thing you talked about, which was giving people that dignity of choice, going around like they're shopping, not like they would be in any shame, just a totally different way of framing the support for families for combating hunger. So I'm delighted to be partnered with you on that. Now we're going to hear from Amanda Musselman from MON to speak on what you've been seeing in your work with Pantry and other emergency food providers throughout the county and with the county ARPA recovery plans.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I think there's two really big emerging trends that we need to talk about. At the end of August, MON issued a network-wide survey to the 60 emergency food providers that we support. And the first thing is just how much the demand is increasing at our pantry network. And we're coming into a new phase of this recovery, and we think everything is back to normal, people are working, but that's not 100% true. There are so many different people, from young adults to working families to seniors, who need that extra help and that resource of their local community pantry. Over 75% of those who responded to our survey stated that they're seeing significant increases in pantry attendance from January 2022. And what is incredible is some of the significant increases which they're seeing. Willow Grove Baptist Church, they went from serving 40 families a week to 120 families a week. And that kind of need requires even greater resources. Also, I just want to bring attention to some of the different populations that our pantry network is seeing. And one of them in particular is our working families, working individuals whose dollar unfortunately just doesn't stretch as far as it used to. And it takes one emergency, one large grocery bill to cause a major setback. And that's our ALICE population, asset limited, income constrained, employed. And the reason that I bring this up is it's so important that over 50% of Montgomery County residents who are struggling with hunger make too much to access federal nutrition programs. And I just want to give an acknowledgement to the Wolf administration for over, I guess it was 2-3 weeks ago, they closed that gap a little bit more by allowing a threshold of 200% of the federal poverty limit. And that can make all the difference The second big thing I want to acknowledge is unfortunately some of the decline in community support that our network is seeing. You know, our community is so loving and so generous, and when you put a call to action, they come. But in two forms, in-kind food donations and monetary food donations to our pantry network, unfortunately is lower than what it was during the pandemic. And our donors are facing the same trials and tribulations that we are, and our clients are facing. You know, unfortunately, that dollar just doesn't stretch as far as it used to. So we're at this interesting crossroads. We have so much more demand, and on the offset, we're seeing a little bit less of the resources and support. So how do we tackle these problems? And it can be a lot sitting here hearing about the challenges that we are facing. But I think the most beautiful thing about Montgomery County is its commitment to each other, and that commitment from our county, from our representatives, and from our pantry network to make that change. And a part of that is through our Build Back Better initiative. And at the end of August 2021, the 4 lead emergency food agencies, Monco Anti-Hunger, Fill Abundance, Share Food Program, and the county itself met to re-envision what our emergency food network should look like. And what was designed is the center focus of a just human-centered division. And I think that goes to talking about the dignified exchange that we create at the pantries. And a lot of times we have these conferences and we talk about food, but our food pantry network is supporting so much more. It is a safe place, it's a place for resources, and a place for you to get connected to resources to thrive. So it's important now more than ever that we continue to support our food pantry network, ensuring that they have the resources they need to thrive. Because we know a well-fed community is a thriving community, and that's a community that we all want to be a part of. And finally, I just want to offer my appreciation to Congresswoman Madeleine for today's platform, because it's the first step in creating these systematic changes, is acknowledging that we have a problem and creating that platform for us to come together and drive our community towards a just human-centered perspective, making Montgomery County free from hunger. So thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. And I should point out and thank my team who actually put this together. I don't have to do this work alone, thank goodness, and I wouldn't be able to do it without my amazing team. So, Co and Aileen, thank you. Amanda, some of the things you were talking about, the increased numbers and who is increasingly now hungry, for example, working families. We were on a visit to a street medicine group in Pottstown. They work closely with the homeless and the homeless advocates, and they were talking about the increased homelessness in our beautiful county. And sadly, the numbers are ticking up among seniors because of affordability of housing, and also families. So these things are going hand in hand, and that's why it's so important that we keep these resources getting out there to more and more people. Thank you for your amazing work. Next, we'll hear from Susan Niger-Gould from Manna on Main Street to discuss what you guys are seeing regarding the disparate impact of hunger and the difficulties of seniors and those with disability accessing food. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for hosting us in this lovely church. It really reminds me that Manna was started as an interfaith service organization for people in the Lansdale area experiencing food insecurity. And over those 40 plus years, we have grown over and over again as the need has grown or has become more apparent. The need has always been there, but as we have become more aware of the need, we have grown, and we've moved 3 times to 4 different locations, always on Main Street, which was good because it's Manna on Main Street, so we never had to change our name. And now we find ourselves in a really lovely community center, North Penn Commons. And for Manna, this has been really transformational because we truly have been able to say to the community, here we are. You know we have existed in the past, but really now we are very visible. Now our clients can come in, and instead of standing on the sidewalk waiting for services, they come into a beautiful space, really, really lovely space, and all of you who have been to North Penn Commons know how beautiful that is. And just think about what that means for a community to have a place where people who are very, very poor, people who are homeless, are coming indoors alongside of people going to the YMCA, people going to the Peak Senior Center for activities, and people who actually live there in low-income senior apartment homes. What does that do to a person when they can come in alongside and they can say, yes, I am part of this community. I have special needs, but I am part of this community. And it also gives the community a chance to understand this is our community. And so MANA has really benefited from that community. They stood with us in March 2020 when none of us knew what to do. And we just decided we're going to keep on feeding people until we either run out of money or the health department says, close your doors. Neither of those things happened. And so we kept on going because volunteers came in, risking their lives, truly. Do you remember that March of 2022 and April? We didn't know what was going to happen. Volunteers came in and people kept on giving us food. It just kept on coming and making us masks and giving us money. And so the one thing that I think most pantry managers and executive directors, we didn't have to worry about two things during that time: enough food and enough money, because it came in. Well, now things have changed a bit. So the inflation that people are feeling that is making it more difficult for them to buy food is also affecting the pantries. So we really need strong federal programs. They have to stay and they have to continue. Because really pantries, those of us who are doing pantries, we are only a tiny, tiny part of the food insecurity solutions. But we're doing the work, and we're doing it because we're embedded in caring communities. And what we see is really that food insecurity, the disparity is whoever is poor. If you are poor, you are food insecure. That's the way it is. And it doesn't matter if you are white or if you are black or you are brown or what age you are. If you are poor, you are food insecure. And so what we try to do is find people who need the food and provide for them in the most dignified way, in ways that is really looking at what kind of foods do you want? Do you really want just a bag of food? Or can we get you the foods that culturally you find most needed and really what nourishes not just your bellies but your soul? And so that's the kind of work we are doing. We really try for seniors to know that we can get to you. If you can't get to us, we will get to you. And the same with people who have disabilities. And so that is the work that we're doing. We have a campaign, a 10-year campaign called A North Penn Where No One is Hungry. We're making really a pledge to our community. In 10 years, there will be no hunger in the North Penn area. So watch what we're doing and learn from us, please.
Well, Susan, I have visited the North Penn Commons location. It is beautiful because it just offers such dignity, such a feeling of community, and I'm worthy of being a part of all of this. I'm not something separate, not waiting out on a sidewalk in line in the cold, in the rain. It's absolutely a beautiful space, and what you do for seniors and those with disabilities is remarkable. We have at least, I think, two more. We have Betsy and Marilee, am I right? Good. And before I pivot to you, I did want to just lift up some of the electeds who are in the audience. Do you mind standing up and waving? Because this is a group project. Ben Sanchez, say hello, State Representative, Lori Schreiber, and Spiegelman, Township Commissioners, County Row Officers, State Representatives. We are all in this together. Did I miss anybody? No, terrific. Terrific. Next, we have Betsy Plummer from Gwynedd Mercy University to share higher education's experience with hunger and efforts to provide resources to those in the community, but very much for students and the university itself.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
I'm representing Gwinnett Mercy University and Catherine's Cupboard, where we respond to college student basic needs, but I'm also representing a consortium, the College Student Basic Needs Consortium in Montgomery County. Other core members, most of whom are here today, include Montgomery County Community College, Manna on Main Street, Pottstown Cluster of Religious Communities, Family Promise, MON, and Your Way Home, and I hope I didn't forget anyone. So I'm going to be speaking from both perspectives for a few minutes. The student body at Gwinnett Mercy University is diverse in ethnicity, race, age, and country of origin, and many are also first-generation college students and have dependents of their own. They're pursuing degrees in fields such as healthcare, education, social work, and business, and several others in order to elevate their earning potential and to provide a better life to their families. In the meantime, they reduce their working hours, and they pay for gas, and they pay for tolls and SEPTA to commute to get to where they need to go to take these classes, and also to have the time to study to be successful. Often the experiential learning experiences such as internships and clinical rotations or student teaching, which are critical to their careers, require a significant time commitment, and they often are without compensation. In the meantime, we know that life happens. I encounter students whose partners or parents are facing job cuts or who have work injuries, and that tips their family's fragile financial situation. Cars or furnaces need repair. Children and parents get sick, and tragically, house fires occur as well. And when these situations arise, students cut their food budgets first in order to manage their other expenses. When things are really tight, they can't even afford to commute, and that endangers their academic progress. Our goal is to help bridge these gaps for them, whether they're an ongoing lack that they're facing or if it's situational, and help keep them on track to graduation and their career goals. When it became clear that our students were facing basic needs insecurities, we first identified food insecurity, and we created a small donation-funded pantry of non-perishables and snacks to begin to address the issue. One of our trustees, John Kepner, who's also a community member with many connections and is with us today, initiated discussions with local experts and colleagues in Montgomery County, particularly at Montgomery County Community College and some of the other organizations that I just mentioned, to consider how we might address this issue in a more comprehensive way. When launching our consortium, we administered the Temple University Hope Center survey and found that in 2018, 31% of GMercyU students experienced food insecurity in the past month. 43% indicated housing insecurity in the past year, and 11% had experienced homelessness. These numbers were slightly lower than the national average for four-year institutions. The College Student Basic Needs Consortium was formed with the initial goal of allowing GMercyU and Montco students to become remote clients of Manna on Main Street and the Pottstown cluster. This would allow them to utilize their Smart Choice ordering system and have access to more nutritious, fresh food, and to be able to utilize this to get greater variety than we were able to provide at that time at our own facilities. Students' orders are delivered directly to campus for their convenience and to cut down the amount of driving and transportation that are required. This pilot program launched in April, and the number of students participating is increasing each month. We have a goal of reaching 100 students total with this pilot. In the meantime, members of the consortium are also working together to support students and their families' hunger needs. We did so during the pandemic. We were very fortunate to receive thousands of dollars in CARES Act money, which was invaluable to meet the students' needs during that time. We recently launched a housing scholarship opportunity and are in the process of developing a hub resource website to help students find additional resources both locally and within their own personal communities. I'm joined today by a student, Marilee Mccollum, who's going to speak to you about her personal experiences as well. And I really appreciate her having the courage to come and talk with everyone today.
Hi, everyone. Okay, I'm honored to be able to speak as a student of experience and as a voice for the community to be heard. My name is Marilee Mccollum, like I was just introduced, and I am a BSW Social Work program and a senior at GMercyU. I started on campus in 2018 after graduating from Monco. I will be graduating in May 2023. In my last 4 years on campus, I have experienced so many life-changing moments. I am no different than a community member here. I'm a mother, daughter, friend, niece, cousin, and I'm sure the list could go on. But I think it is important to promote advocacy and awareness as being in my field. As a student on GMercyU's campus, we have a building called Catherine's Cupboard. During the pandemic, it started to become very beneficial place to go for pantry items, such as cans, fresh fruit, and veggies. We supply free toothbrushes, feminine hygiene products, baby wipes, diapers, shampoo, soap, Wawa gift cards for gas, and flex money to purchase food on campus. I have even worked as a work-study student in our Mercy Center and occasionally helped volunteer hours too. I have donated countless times over the holidays. Last year, during a Student Government Association event that I was a part of hosting for a Thanksgiving drive, I was able to collect over 600 cans among all students on campus. I know what it's like to have to choose a bill over food and tell your child we have to hold off on your favorite snack until the next store trip. The face that the child makes and the tears that they will make will break your heart and is something you will remember. My experience during the pandemic, working full-time, even picking up hours when I should have been spending time with my son that I will never get back, going to school, and the other task as a parent that goes along with my life. My COVID-19 experience was horrible, and I hope I never have to go through it again. I think more should be done for more access to food, free hotels to stay, gift cards so that a family could have bought cleaning products that were so limited anyways. Yes, oh, sorry. Yes, there are food stamps on ABT cards. To be honest, you use the amount in one shopping trip. The income limits prevent those who really need it from being approved. I have an access card to use if needed, but sometimes when you go to certain stores, they make you feel embarrassed to seek help for your child. I was once asked by a cashier if I wasn't ashamed to use it here and there, and I'm a taxpayer. I said I'm a taxpayer. Same goes with WIC formula. The cost is outrageous. I was once in a store and a customer behind me in front of my son, who was an infant at the time. Are you seriously going to hold up the line for 4 checks? You know you should be paying for that. Are you even working? Finally, I said, I am a student. I was working up until the day I had my son. I am a taxpayer too, and I was only taking the help until the month after I took off. I said, if you look at the bill after the check, I still had to pay $134, and I bet you have used it back in your day, and your child may be seeking help as well. My infant can hear everything of what you had said too. I think there should be more done in our communities. We have those who have retired that are still waiting for their Social Security checks, disability claims to be approved, welfare incomes, and more. We all want the same things in life, and to show culture and humility with others. I know in my field of work, I will always show compassion and love to others in need. We all need help, some more vocal than others, which is fine, but we need advocates and spread awareness. What can you do to help us?
I don't think any of us could said it better than that. Don't we all want to have reflected at us our common humanity? How is it that people so ignorantly and shamefully judge and are willing to say these things out loud? So, Marilee, thank you for your courage. Thank you for your studies. Congratulations. In May, you will be graduating. Your son, your family, the Gwynedd Mercy University community, and our community is very, very proud of you. I'm a former professor. I taught at LaSalle University for 10 years, and I saw my students struggle. And I don't think we were as keenly aware of the numbers that you shared with us in terms of the percentage of students who are students, they're working, they're parents, and they're struggling to make ends meet and to do all of the right things, which is exactly what you're doing. What an extraordinary servant's heart you will bring to social work. It's very inspiring, and I'm very sorry for the challenges you've been through. It's very cool what Gwynedd Mercy and Monco have partnered to do, along with our partners here. But truly, Marilee, nobody could say any of that any better. Thank you for your courage. I'm looking now for tips from the pastor or from my staff. Are we now opening it to questions from the audience? Terrific. Anybody, just raise your hand and someone will bring you a mic. It might even be the pastor. Yes, Ben. Representative Sanchez.
Started off a little bit here. I'm sure other people will have some things to add. Well, first of all, thank you all for being here, and everyone in the audience too for lifting up this issue with your voices and your platform. I wanted to touch on something you were kind of bringing up there, Mad, with the, we produce so much food even in Pennsylvania, and there's many programs, the PASS program, that are trying to get that to the people in need with surplus. But this is another aspect of the issue that bothers me so much, because it is a fixable problem. Hunger is something we can fix, and we will someday. The waste of food in our nation is just another tragedy on top of the tragedy of hunger. So it's estimated that there's like 30 to 40% of food produced is wasted in America. And most of that goes into, again, tragically, into a landfill. So this is an environmental crime on top of a crime of humanity. And I'm hoping, and I know some of them, because we've discussed it, Tiffany, you and I discussed it with technology, and Pastor, you and I had a once very animated conversation about how technology would bridge the gap with this for, getting the supply to meet the demand and those needs, and just, so I wanted to lift that up, but if anybody wants to talk about what their organization is doing or has any further insight in that, I would welcome it. And thank you again.
Lori?
Thank you, Representative, for that. That's a really good point. And thank you also for the support of the PASS program, the Pennsylvania Agricultural Surplus System. You guys doubled what we got this year. It was about $2 million in the past. This year we'll have $4 million across the Commonwealth. And what that will allow is for us to purchase food that's not purchased by kind of retailers for food banks at a much discounted rate. And then thank you for the recent investment in TFAP and just generally from the U.S. Department of Agriculture of $1.5 billion. There'll be about $15 million we believe is going to come, a local food purchasing program that's going to allow us to supplement that in a very dramatic way. Fill Abundance actually started as a food rescue organization, and the stat that we always use is that if we took half of what we as Americans throw out, half the food that we throw out, we could feed everybody who's hungry. So in this county, it's 100,000. In this region, it's over 500,000. So that's true. And I think that's one of the things that organizations like ours are doing. What folks are doing really, we're looking for donations. We participate in our retail rescue program. So some of our pantries, we've arranged are going directly to the grocery stores and getting food that's still good, and then making sure that it doesn't go to waste. The other thing that we're realizing as well is that we want to make sure we have a system where nothing is going to waste. But what I'm also hearing, and Marilee, thank you for really putting in a very powerful way what's happening. The reality is we're finding that part of this issue, part of this equation really is about poverty, right? And so what are we doing to really address poverty? And are there ways that we can be creative in addressing even food waste by thinking about ways of creating jobs for people? I think about what you're doing over there at Manna on Main and what others are doing. How do we make sure that we're providing people additional training and opportunities to get them operating in the food system in different ways? We think about accessibility. We think about in terms of people getting access to the food, but also are we in fact empowering local farmers in ways that we're getting more dollars to them that ultimately is coming back into our community. And then finally, I'll just talk a little bit more about SNAP. One of the things that did come out of the White House conference with folks from the Hope Center, and we're involved very closely with them, is now allowing more students to be eligible for SNAP. We love about the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, what we used to know as food stamps. We love about that is that individuals get access to those dollars where they should not be treated the way that you were, but they are able to make choices for their families, and then those dollars are going back into our communities. Right, and so there is more dignity in that. People get to choose the food that they want. But I appreciate what you raised about food waste. And in fact, what we're doing at the Commonwealth, the PASS program, is now a national model. So we definitely want to do more to make sure of that. The last thing I'll say about food waste, and I think I'm looking at Marcia right behind you, when we talk about providing people choice, we're talking about another type of food waste. So one of the things we'll see during COVID, when these folks were working on the front lines, our heroes every day, we had to package up things and give people was the easiest way to do it. So we weren't allowing people choice. Unfortunately, what we saw is that we saw more of the food that we were donating being wasted. So it's why it's that much more important that we're investing in the way that we have at this pantry here to allow people to come and choose what they want for their families, so that at every point in that system, we're not wasting food.
Did anyone else want to add
Yeah,
to
I'm
that?
just going to add two quick things.
Thank you.
One is I think that, and there is some work being done around this on food expiration dates or best buy dates. And obviously, if it's fresh produce or other things, some of those dates are extremely important. But in many cases, those dates are almost meaningless. And the products could be completely fine and just as tasty, but many are required to actually throw them away because that date has passed. And so I think we need to take a hard look on where that's coming from and how we can make that system do what it was supposedly designed to do, which is to make sure everyone is eating food that's safe. But I think it got taken a little too far, and so much food is thrown away just because a somewhat arbitrary date has passed. And I think there's other ways that there's so many pilot programs going on around the country where physicians and health providers are giving individuals prescriptions for fresh fruits and vegetables. And just reinforcing the opportunity to make sure that there's dollars tied to that so that people can afford to buy the type of food that would be best for their personal health. Certainly somebody with diabetes or high blood pressure, these things are absolutely critical. There's no medicine in the world that can make up for not being able to eat fresh fruits and vegetables if you have one of those conditions. And so I think we can be a lot more creative than the ways that we have been traditionally.
I think in addition to that, to all of those good points, sure, we want to reduce the waste through some of the innovations you're talking about. But I met with a group relatively recently who is actually that which we must waste, that which to avoid the landfill. They have a process by which to dry it, and it still remains loaded with proteins, many of the foods we're talking about, and then they convert that to feed, agricultural feed, so that it's almost a recycling of that which we're going to waste, and that'll help reduce the cost of that which we're producing as well. So lots of room for growth in that space. So thanks for bringing that up, Ben. Other thoughts, comments? Yes, sir.
I thank you very much, all of you, for participating today. I think it's a good example of how public-private partnerships can really work. But I think there's a missing element here, perhaps, and that is the business community. It would be great to convene CEOs together in a town meeting like this with the providers, with some of the funders, and talk about how the business community can contribute to this. It's partly building awareness, but where's their self-interest in it? Is it because students will be able to get jobs with them? Is it because they're healthcare providers? We have some major healthcare facilities around here that have an interest in it as well. So I think some thought should be given to that.
That's great. Do you mind tell us your name, and are you
I'm
in the
sorry.
business community?
I'm John Kepner. I'm a trustee at Good and Mercy, and I've been helpful in setting up this college student basic needs program.
That's
and I'm
terrific.
also a trustee at HealthSpark, which is a major funder here.
Terrific. Thanks for your work in all those areas, and thanks for raising that. You're absolutely right. A powerful partner is and should be business communities, small and large. So thank you for that. And any connections you want to give us? Others? Comments? Thoughts? Yes, thank you.
I wanted to say that rescuing food is very important, but it really demands a fair amount of infrastructure. We need to transport the food. We need to then store it often. It needs to be inventoried. It needs to be checked. So there's a lot of work that goes into that. And so, John, your thoughts about having CEOs come together that have business acumen, that really would help in that process. And also collaborations between organizations, so warehousing can be done in a way, that really covers the need for warehousing in a region. All of these things are very, very important. Otherwise, just small pantries, it's pretty overwhelming to deal with a lot of food that is rescued. So we really need the collaborations.
Terrific, thanks. Yes.
Evan Prestipino, Wissahickon High School. I just loved and wanted to stress about how you said that this was a humanity issue. I know Mr. Commissioner had said, yeah, there is the pain and the hunger, but like Melanie had mentioned, it is devastating because going out there and now having to work to get that food and not being able to spend time with loved ones. And I saw it personally in my school. We have a free lunch program for certain students, and it ended up really isolating them to the point where everyone was able to get free lunch because it became a stigma for the people who were getting, free lunch. And I just know that it can be really devastating, isolating, and taking away from, other aspects of their life. It's, in more than, the pain of hunger. So.
Thank you for saying that. What year are you?
I'm a senior.
Oh, terrific.
So.
What are you thinking of next? Maybe you'll do some work in this space.
I'm applying to West Point and the Naval Academy, so that's my biggest thing. So
take a note.
Nomination process, yeah, I love being here.
Well, thank you for that spirit of service and that understanding that your fellow students should not have had to feel any of that kind of shame or isolation. So we did get smarter and make sure that you just make the free and reduced food available to all, to just eliminate that part of the stigma and the shame. Thank you for being keenly aware of it. I think over here? Yes, microphone's coming.
Hi, I'm Kathy Fisher. I'm Director of Government Affairs at Philabundance. And I know there is no magic wand, but I'm wondering if you can give us all some advice. We know parts of our federal delegation support the things we want, but at the start of your remarks, you talked about how the child tax credit wasn't continued because not enough of our elected officials seem to see the value. So in your experience with trying to persuade your colleagues, is there any, again, I know there's no magic wand, but do you have advice for us in terms of this issue with hunger, of how we can be more effective in trying to persuade those who should, in my opinion, this is not Philabundance, this is my personal opinion, no, it is Philabundance, like continue the child tax credit. You know, like there are things, the data shows how many kids were lifted out of poverty, and it's just incredibly frustrating being an advocate and feeling like, how, you know, what do you do to try to persuade those who currently aren't supporting what we think needs to be done?
So if you can't persuade them, you must replace them.
True.
All right. And we're in church and we're good, and this is, but I'm quite frankly tired of some paying lip service to this and saying that they care about people, and then voting against things that will help people. So I don't understand what persuasion people know. You would see the numbers, you can see what happened as a result of what Congress has done. So I would just say at the federal level and the state level, if you can't persuade them, you must replace them.
Well said. I have to tell you, Kathy, that we went through, the whole world went through a crazy experience with COVID and the global economic shutdown. But in Congress specifically, from my seat in our caucus, I remember, and we had to, of course, do everything by Zoom. I remember we huddled day after day after day to say, what are going to be the most effective policies to lift small businesses so that they don't go under, to lift families, to lift those who are on the margins. And that's why it was so exciting to pass, to vote for, vote for, and pass the enhanced child tax credit. How smart was it to not have to make families wait a whole year to apply for this credit? It's a credit back, folks. And then to enhance it and have it monthly. In that moment of crises, we were more bipartisan. We really were, and I was so proud of that, that we sort of took our partisan hats off and went back to the notion of humanity. This is our common humanity. How can we help everybody who's facing, I hope, once and a never again, set of crises and losses of life and all of that? Sadly, that slipped away. That spirit of we've got to continue to do this together. And you saw us, my caucus, I won't say which caucus that is, but you might be able to guess, continue to pass resources for people without a single vote from the other side of the aisle, which I will never forget. We were begged, state and local governments, municipalities begged us for relief. And it was frustrating to me that it took so long. Finally, we passed the American Rescue Plan, but that bipartisanship slipped away. So, elections matter. Keep doing the advocacy you're doing. Pray that we never go through the kinds of hardships that we are still struggling with now. But vote for people who care about programs like this rather than tax cuts for the wealthy. It's just a simple thing. It's not really political at all. It's, what are your values? Your values are revealed by your votes and where you put your resources. So, thanks.
Food is a moral issue.
Yeah.
It really is. I don't know how anyone who claims to be religious, if you look at the three axial religions, Christianity, Jesus, one of his greatest miracles is feeding the crowd. With Islam, we certainly have the same focus on charity, and this is not charity, this is morality. We grow enough food to feed the world, but yet we have hungry Americans. And so I would venture to say I
Yes, exactly.
And we have a responsibility to watch out for you. You're going to watch out for us, because all of us are going to get old. We're investing in you, but we ought to start investing more of our religious imagination and our political capital, if we are what we say we are, to make sure other people do not have to go through what you went through.
Exactly.
I think we have time for just one more question.
One more question.
That's a lot of pressure. And that's all hard to follow, like, you know, to follow behind. I mean, that's amazing. I have two 17-year-olds. I got to step up my game. But I wanted to talk about two different things, and I'll be really quick. But I'm the assistant market manager at Man on Main Street. And I work with other pantries and Mon and Philabundance to kind of work on this, you know, the back end, but I'm also working with the clients. I'm there with the people who are feeling the food insecurity and everything we're talking about, whether it's the money or the food or the trash or waste or whatever. But I also, as a young mother, I was a single mom, going to college at night, working all day. I was cleaning houses, going to school. And I remember that feeling of like the WIC checks and like splitting it up and people looking at you and I grew up in poverty because I had that pink card for lunches, for the school lunches, like that you were like so ashamed to like show to people. So the free lunches for everybody from my kids, they didn't have to experience that, and it was like so great. But it's just tough. So like I feel it on our end and the way we help people, but I also feel it on the end of the mom who just wants to feed her kids and do better. Man on Main Street took a chance with me and gave me a job even though I hadn't worked for a while because I had twins and I had to quit my job. And I was just a PTA mom, and I said, you know, let me just invest in my community, because that's what we're doing. We're investing in our community. And when I hear people say things like, why should we give money or food to people that they have nice cars, and I said, you don't understand what they're going through. And an investment in your community means that less people need things, and there's less crime, and there's less need, and it's just, that's what I want my kids to grow up with. So thank you, everybody, for everything that you do. And I don't have a question, I'm sorry.
I think that was a great close. What is your name? What is your name? Christine, thank you. That was a great close. Thank you for sharing your experience and the ways we have improved and the long distance we still have to go. It sounds like Manna made a very good choice in investing in you. It's a great partnership. We are in this spiritual place, and you remind us, Pastor Mitchell, about that this is a moral issue. It transcends all other features of society. It's a moral issue. In my faith tradition, we're taught not to judge. Boy, how often we fail that, and I include myself. But we also pray the prayers about, I was naked and you clothed me. I was hungry and you fed me. When did I ever do that? Someone asks Jesus. When did I ever do that? Whenever you did it for the least of these, you did it for me. I am such a believer in that. And if we have any faith basis, or even without, when you do for others, you are doing for the greater good. You are doing for humanity. And so I feel so fortunate to have been here with all of you. Thank you for all your work, your participation, your fire about this human issue, which we have the ability to solve. And you see so many talented people here finding those solutions, and we just have to partner better to get all the resources out. So a sincere thanks to all of you.